clear.
Loud and clear?
That's what they said.
Alright, let's keep the tires light fires. Hi everybody. How many people we got watching?
19.
19, okay. That's a start.
Not bad for
Yeah.
minutes in.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Judd's RC Motorsports Nprc Talk with my co-host Randy here. And we have a special guest tonight. This is my daughter, Emma Judd, a young and upcoming racer. And there's three things I wanted to cover tonight. And in tonight's episodes, they're kind of all three small topics, but they're really not either. So they're kind of both. But I wanted to try and fit a couple things in until I do a big episode in another week or two. Actually, next week, just to let everybody know, next week's we're not going to go live on Friday night because of the Vegas race. Due to circumstances between me and Emma's mother and that whole getting somebody to watch her thing didn't work out, and I got SWAT training with the PD, I'm actually not going to be in Vegas. So I'm sorry. I think that I'm going to try and make it down to Lake Elsinore probably in another month or two for one of Tim Smith's races, and because that track they got, man, it looks sweet. Huh? It does. Yeah. It does. I'm going to say it. The track looks sweet. So good job, guys. I want to give a shout out to, you want to give any shouts out, Randy?
No.
I want to give a shout out to Josh at Extreme Bodies by JB. I want to give a shout out to Jake's Performance Hobbies and the guys down there. I want to give a shout out to, who do you want to give a shout out to?
Jake's Performance Hobbies.
Jake's Performance Hobbies. You heard it here. Emma said, give me a high five. That was awesome. Okay. So let's get started here. Tonight, one of the things, this is actually, I remember in the very first episode, we had right here in the center, right in front of me, we had just a bone stock slash. It had a Valenian in it. And that was Emma's car, and we kind of used it as an example for a stock slash, as one side of the spectrum, and the other side being like a full-blown race car, like we had a couple of them up here. So last week I had kind of showed Emma's car off just a little bit, because it was about 80% done, but I had to take care of stuff like the custom mounting for the wheelie bar and electronics and stuff like that. So. You wanna pick up your car and show the camera, if the camera wants to come down here for me. Well, stand up. Stand up. Oh yeah, I got that. Okay, stand up. So you want to hold your car just like this, and let's show everybody. So what we got here. This is just a stock slash. You can get them at your local hobby shops. Ours is Jake's Performance Hobbies. You can get them there for I think they're $100. Yes, for a slider. And what a slider is, it is basically a rolling chassis without wheels. So no body, no wheels and tires, no electronics. I think for, in increments like we did with Emma when the car was stock, you can start off with, for kids, because that's what the first topic's about, is about the kids. We want to get more people into the sport. And the kids, they're really the next generation of this. I mean, in another, 30 years, I might not be here. I'm hoping somebody's out there playing with these stupid things, So, you can just put it together with a 12-turn brushed setup and let them go slow, and then go to Valenian like we did with Emma. And now we've actually, so what this is just this same stock slash, and it's got a couple key components here. So other than the servo and I think it's got a Spectrum receiver in it. Other than like the drag race components for me that he needs to have to get her going fast, like the XR10 Pro, I got the Hobby Wing motor in it, I got a Proline tranny, and I got a really stiff rear shock tower. Other than that, it is a stock car on a $100 chassis. So this just goes to show how easy, this is like, I'd say like stage 3 for a kid, this isn't a stock car anymore. It's going a lot faster. It's a little bit more custom, and yeah, we're going to go out and test it tomorrow, right? With our buddy Ricky Bellotti. Ricky, if you're watching, what's up, guys? And we'll throw a tune in it and see if she can do as well as she did with the Valenian. That's right. So, which one of these do you want to do first? Let's spin the wheel. Damn it, we need a wheel.
Cover some tires first.
Okay, so Randy, why don't you explain to us what we got sitting in front of you here?
We got J Concepts Star Tech wheel set. Pick these up local hobby shop. They come with front and rear wheels. If you're just starting out, this is what you want to grab. Because you can get both front and rear wheels to go with. You can buy yourself a set of primes. They do make matching sets, front and rear. Also Hoosiers, or whatever you want to run. You can find that works for you guys.
The reason why, if you don't mind, really quick, Randy, the reason why I chose this stuff to show, I run a certain tire. This one's going to get a lot more run out of it, and that way I'll be able to do more tuning with Emma's car. So we're going to start it out on primes. There's a lot of companies out there making tires. There's a lot of companies making rims. The reason why I chose these rims, and all the rims I have tested, to me, if you like the look of a bead lock, that's fine. And if that's what you're going for, that's awesome. The bead locks, to me, I mean, one bead lock weighs as much as this whole package of wheels. So, again, power weight ratio, certain light parts in the car really help the car, including anything that's in the rotating mass in the transmission or the drivetrain. And I've found that, the fronts, they're all a little bit wobbly, but the rears, for me, they handle. I've never broken a rim. They're lightweight, they're cheap, and that's why we're going with these, because this is what I use. Same thing, like I said, guys, consistency. Pick something, get it to work, and stick with it every single time you run the car. Whether it's a wheelie bar adjustment, or a tune in your speed control, or gearing, or tires, or shocks. Keep it consistent. Don't change a lot of things. We got a lot of guys out there changing a lot of things all at once.
Every time.
Okay. So, Randy, why don't you open up that brand new package of primes for us? How you doing? Can I put this up already? Yeah. Shoot.
Not too bad. Sometimes when you guys open tires, you'll find that there is inconsistencies on the inside of the beads. Like this one's got a little bit where they cut out the extra. You can go ahead and go in there and trim it up. It will make it seating on the rim a lot nicer and a lot more uniform, so you don't get any bubbles out where it becomes inconsistent on the rim. Usually backside has some. It's not too bad. But for the most part, this one's actually not too bad.
Hey, Randy, if I could have you do something for me real quick. Let me take the tire, and let's go up there and grab, there's a white square, about 8-inch tall bottle of alcohol. And if camera guy, my buddy Johnny, Jamie got sick tonight, guys. My buddy Johnny's filling in for Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Hope you're feeling better. And Johnny's doing a great job. Johnny, if you just hand me that blue paper towels right there.
Clean the bead.
So there's one thing that's overlooked. When I started doing this, no matter how long or what it takes to set your glue, and what kind of glue you use, or this or that, there's so many products out there. There's a couple things that started getting consistent with something I was doing this way and it wasn't working, so I went back this way. And what I'm teaching here, if you do it a different way, that's fine, but this is what I do to make sure that my wheels come out the truest. And some of it, as far as high performance RC stuff, like the way we're going to show you to glue the tires and stuff, and the amount of glue we're going to show you how to use, it's not something. Some people that are into more racy stuff might kind of turn up their nose and go, "Why would you do that?" But that's just what I've seen. There's nothing like losing a race. I've seen a couple guys every race blowing beads out.
I did.
I've done it once or twice, and there's nothing like having a great, hit, and the car launches, and you get, you're winning your first place, and all of a sudden, and the tire blows out. So there's nothing worse than that. So this is what I found is the strongest. And so the first thing you need to know is that there's, whether you can feel it, whether you can see it, whether you can smell it, whether you can hear it, there is a...
Or taste it.
Or taste it, yeah, I can taste it, but no, that didn't taste good.
That's part of the release agent.
Yeah, so there's a fine powder on here that they use in the mold once they pull the mold apart and the tire's dry. And what that powder does is it helps the mold pieces separate and them to get the tire out easier. And a lot of the times, a lot of the companies, again, there's a lot of companies out there making tires that a lot of the times they don't clean that stuff off. They don't have a very good cleaning process. So what I do is I take just a crap load of alcohol. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted a little bit of alcohol. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of give just a really light swipe right there to the outside bead. Okay. Flip the rag so I got another clean surface. And now I know. You doing that? What is that? It's like a high-pitched whistling. And as you can see, in a couple seconds, that stuff's dry. That tire is sterile. I'm going to leave it there. And then what I've done here, that's one side of it. I want to know that I got a really, really good clean surface for my glue to dry to. Then on the rim, and this is where it might get a little weird to some people that are more into racing, is sometimes you use like a really fine little tip to get your glue, and you peel the tire back and work it around, or whatever way you got to do it. We don't touch it, okay? What I want to do is I want to glue this outside edge right to the tire with a 64th inch full thick of glue. Where the glue goes inside there, that's fine. But I found that the most truest way to do these drag tires is just get them all perfect sitting on the rim and then let them sit and glue them, okay? So the first time I tried that, it worked really good for a hit or two. And then the glue broke off. I kept blowing beads. I'm like, why am I blowing beads? I'm like, well, wait a minute. Get that other rear rim out of there. So see come here really close. You see the lip right here on this brand new wheel? See how nice and shiny that is, and it's nice and slick? Well, you see what I've done here? I've sanded this one. And what I've done is I've taken a 3-inch pad. You can use sandpaper on a block or whatever, but I suggest you use something that's flat. And as I'm turning the wheel, I'm just giving that outside a tooth. And I know some of you guys that like to make your cars look, like real cars and stuff, you might not like this. I don't give a shit what the wheels look like. I want them to work. So once I've got that, this is prepped because it's clean. This has been sanded and it's sterile because it's fresh material. I sanded it. Then I'm going to carefully work the bead in. Let's get the rest of the tire on. Oh, this one doesn't really see, I'm not used to these tires. These tires don't fit as well. Okay, now see, here's what I'm talking about. Once I got the rim sitting good in the tire, and it's not out, you can't see that second lip, and it's all nice on the wheel, and it's like that both, then I'm gonna kind of use my fingers and work it. I want to roll it. I want to make sure that foam is laying, before I glue anything, I want to make sure that everything is neutral inside the tire, and this one looks really good. So what, there's a lot of glues out there. Why don't you tell them why you ought to pick a good glue?
Glue is what holds the tire to the rim. This one, the Ultra here, is what most of the guys use. I use this one personally. I like it a lot. I have not had any bad experience with this. I did try a different glue, and it did not work for me. It popped apart one of our cash races, actually the last race, and most likely possibly caused me the race. This one, I believe, is supposed to have a little bit of stretch to it, so that it's not as brittle like regular super glue. It just breaks right off.
Don't go to the Dollar Tree, guys, and try and save a couple bucks and get some super glue that's $1.99 or 99 cents. Go to your local hobby shop. Again, support the sport, and spend $6 or $8, or let's see, this one was so it's probably about $8.50 with tax.
Yeah.
And this is a bottle. I'll do 10 individual wheels and tires. 10 individual wheels and tires with this, so 5 sets of rear wheels, and still have some left over. So there's a lot of glue in this bottle. It goes a long way. It's really good stuff. If you're local in Northern California, you can get it at Jake's Performance Hobbies. That's where this bottle came from. And if Randy, can you grab me just the tip? You see the clear tip up there next to those 2 blue glue bottles?
One of them, stack of them?
One of those, and then one of the wheels and tires right there. It's totally glued and everything. Thanks, sir. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this glue, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to run a bead. What I do is I go zoop as I'm slightly squeezing it, and then I'll turn it and I'll run back in the bead a little bit and then continue it out. And then if you let it sit on a perfectly level surface after you've glued it like that, and you've gone all the way around with the same amount of glue, and you just leave it on a surface, it will all self-level, and it will end up looking like this. This is a tire that you can absolutely, no matter how hard you try, get apart. Look, I'm trying to, you got some surface cracking, but this is what it looks like with this glue after it's dry. So you can see, for your scale guys that want to make it look perfect, and and spend an hour, coloring in your rims and stuff like that. That's fine. If you don't like this, that's fine. But I'm talking, from a race car world, function before form. This is how we glue our tires. This is how we don't lose races to beads. And that's a really crappy way to lose a race. I mean, to tell you the truth. So that's pretty much it. I scuff the outside of the tire. I get the inside, right here, this last, 1/8 inch lip that I'm going to glue to. So my bead on a tire will come all the way to that sanded edge and about the same distance on the tire. And then when it's, that's a pretty considerable bead for a remote control car wheel. Let me work out the balancer. This is a really poor example. This was off of a car I bought in a lot or something a long time ago. And you can see that just really, they tried to peel it back. And it would be impossible for you to peel it back and glue in there, then let it go, then turn it, then peel it back and glue in there and have that be perfect all the way around. I want these wheels to be as close to not needing to be balanced as possible, and that's the last step. So once we've opened our tires, once we've chose our rims, and we've chosen glue-ons because they're 10 times lighter, we prep the tire like I explained, we get the tire true, we line them all up, and I go one at a time, boop, 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 and I just go right down the line and I just let them sit. Sometimes I let them sit overnight, and then the next day when they're completely dry, I'll turn them over. There's nothing worse than getting in a rush on a set of tires. Next thing you know, you got a super glue patch on the you got your
tires glued to the table.
Yeah, your ears glued to the spur gear, and so these are the wheels that we run. Are you running these wheels, right?
I run those, and I also run the one that's on here.
Let's see.
That's I can't remember the name of it.
Is it a Proline?
It is. It's a.
Okay, so that's a Proline wheel, and what we've noticed is the offset and the make of the wheel, and the shape of the wheel, and the consistency, the type of material that's used is damn near the same, and that's why I have a couple of those laying around here. I personally like the Stars the best. I think they look like an old school Krager drag wheel, even if I just run them black. And what I'm going to do, let's take these rims, scoop those up, and I'm going to have you explain to the camera about some balancing. Let's see how balanced this tire is sitting here.
It's close.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's rolling that slow. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, so once we've gotten this far and our wheels have sat overnight and they've done one side, and the next day we did it and we dried and everything's done, then what we do, now imagine, when we do this 10 to 20 wheels at a time. So it's a 3 or 4 hour project putting, descaling these wheels and cleaning everything and sanding everything. And you got to set up a production line. Thank you, Henry Ford. And then the last step is balancing. So I'm going to hand you over to Randy, and Randy's going to explain not only why it's so important to balance these wheels at the high speed and RPM that we're running, but how to do it properly. So, Johnny, reach right behind you, get that little white thing of scissors. That's what I use to cut the tape. So you know what? Just go ahead and peel the tape off that thing. And I'm just going to do, just to set you up, just cut you a couple pieces. Now this right here, this is not aluminum tape. Aluminum tape, you'll stack an inch stack of it and the wheels still won't be balanced. This is actual lead tape. We get this for golfing. You can get it, Dick's Sporting Goods or any
Anywhere
place like that.
Says anything to do with golf. That's
Pro
that's
shop,
what they do use to balance the heads of the golf clubs.
I don't know how you balance them.
I couldn't tell you. I don't even know how to play golf.
Okay, well, so I'm just going to cut you off a couple pieces here. You get the weight
Sticky
off
lead.
the wheel.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting him off. Like I got one that's 1/4 inch. I got one that's 7/16. I got just a couple different slivers of this lead weight. And take it away, Randy.
Yeah, I balance all my wheels. I've done it since the get-go because coming from the automotive industry, balance tire is key. You don't want any kind of weird vibrations, shaking, anything that's going to affect your performance.
First of all, tell us who made this.
This is a Drew Bro, was it a prop balancer?
And how much was that?
$30.
Was that what I paid for it?
I think it's like
I thought it was like $12. I was like,
no, it's like $29.99 plus tax.
Well, there you go. Even there, $30 is well
but
worth
for what
doing.
you get.
Yeah,
it's worth it. This thing is the best one I've seen. I've looked and looked when I first started doing this. Some people had a different style, had an arm that came off that would hold just the edge of the wheel, but it didn't seem to perform as well as this does. This thing just rolls for days. It's just the slightest movement just keeps it going. First of all, show you how you mount it up.
Do you want some? You know what? Let's do this. Yeah, that's good with this hand, and then with that hand, grab me those 2 lights right there. I'm gonna shine some direct spots on what he's doing, so there's no.
I like to clean the inside of my wheels. Just take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and rag and just clean them off, just so there's no fingerprints, no oil that'll let
Does it
peel
look
off
better?
really easy.
Or is it too bright?
Let's see when the tire's on it.
Okay.
And you just take the prop rod, the balance rod comes with a couple of spacers that you just slide in the tire. Slide one in one way, the other way, get the center. Throw your spring on. It has a spring, it has a little washer,
Come up here and show him that.
then a piece of fuel line that locks it in place.
And I just sandwiched my spring all the way down on it.
Yeah.
And then if you come over here, look, it's got like 4 little razor blades. And tell us about that, Randy. What are those things?
They to me, I don't know exactly what they are. They look just
They
like
look
aluminum,
stainless.
like aluminum or
Look at
stainless. They got to be something light.
I think they're stainless.
Whatever they are, they
Okay.
spin freely.
Yeah, this
incredibly
thing's pretty true,
freely.
considering there's no bearings.
There's
in
no
it.
bearings in this dang thing. You just mount you just get the tire mounted up. Clean off the inside of your rim. Put that in there. So I smash the spring all the way down. Give a little wiggle so it wants to find the exact center. You set it on your balancer. This thing takes little to nothing to spin it.
Yeah, if you guys spin it and do this, just spin the thing, it's
It'll
gonna
go for
take
days.
yeah, it's gonna take 7 minutes. All that matters is that last 3 seconds. What happens when it stops? Now here we go. You're gonna see it slow down
It's like a wheel of
and then
fortune.
go fast.
That's a heavy spot in the tires when it starts to speed back up.
Yeah, you can't shake the table though, Johnny. This is super precision stuff here.
Try to keep your balancer as level as possible as well.
Okay,
Always
now you
helps.
see how it's doing a rock back now? Right now it's finding the heaviest spot on the bottom of the tire. Tell us why, Randy.
Because it's weight. The weight goes to the bottom. Heaviest always sinks. And usually I like to I'll use a silver Sharpie on the inside and mark a line directly above the center. So it gives me a reference point so you can
Well, you get
see
all
where-
precision.
Oh,
I just stick my finger on it and then take it off and put weight on it. Hey, it works. I get in my groove. You'll find you guys, if you guys
Yeah,
are doing
yeah.
a bunch of wheels, you'll find a groove. You'll see a kind of a pattern of what they're off, and they're usually about the same if they're off.
And this thing's finally settled, stopped going, so we'll just
Right on the top there,
Take a
right
look
where that
off.
finger is the exact opposite of the heavy spot. So the heavy spot, because of gravity, finds its way to the bottom,
always go onto the bottom.
and we're trying to counterbalance it. So I'm going to undo that for you.
Got it.
You got it.
Just peel it off. Take it, get it on the inside. I don't know if you can see this too well.
I remember when you were trying to figure out what to use.
Yeah, let's
Stick it in
That's
there.
before I knew they
Boom.
made this.
Done. Take that piece, take it back, put it back on here, give it a little nudge.
Now we're gonna see what it's gonna do.
Send it spinning again. It may take a couple. It may take a couple times. If you do enough tires, you get a feel of it when you see how much it goes to know how much you can cut off and start getting closer with how much.
Hold on, don't shake the table, guys.
With how much tape you.
So
off
see,
of it.
it's coming back considerably. He's got a good half to
Oh, now we got a different
60%.
spot. Look at that.
No, it's gonna rock back. Same spot. Watch.
No, lead's on top now.
Yeah, that means it's still light. That heavy spot is still down low. Now it has shifted a little bit. So the weight was needed here at 12 o'clock, and then it was at like 1 o'clock right now. So we have shifted the weight. We've started to.
Started the process.
I know for a fact that this one, before you took the tape off, it had 2 or 3 pieces of tape on it.
Yeah.
So it was way out there. So don't be
Once
alarmed.
again, put your finger on top if you don't mark your tire so you know where you're at. And just find the best way to get in there. There is really not really a best way to get in there to flop your tape in there. Oh, you're not careful. Take off one.
It's over here.
Let me get a good look in there once you got it all done this time.
As you can see, they're just little strips of lead weight.
A little piece of lead, just pop them in there, and then back on the balancer.
Let's see what she does now. You see all this stuff that Daddy does to get these cars ready to go? It's a lot of work.
I've had tires that were super stubborn, and it took 15 minutes to balance a day.
I had 3 servos fucking glued to that one, dude. That thing was way off. I picked up a piece of gravel or something in the tire.
But yeah, it's just like the same principle that runs in real cars. You know, you've got one heavy spot when you're rotating a tire fast that's
Hey, here
going
we go.
to hop.
Here we
Give
go.
you a lot of wheel hop and could.
Now what we're looking for is not a severe roll back. If it goes back like a quarter inch and stuff, yeah, see that right there?
That might be almost perfect.
Now hold on. Now we got the weight right here. Now spin it again, and if it's in a different spot, then we know that it's balanced.
Yeah, if it goes to no same spot twice, it's
So the
close.
first sign that we had damn near nailed the balancing was what?
When it moved, when it
It
shifted.
didn't roll back.
Yeah.
It was minimum rollback. And the second one to confirm that is the fact that the weight was in a totally different place. Now where's the weight?
And the weight is, where is the weight? Oh,
Right here.
Completely different, 180.
So now we know that no matter, explain it to us.
That no matter where you're gonna go, your tire's gonna be the same, almost identical, rotating all the way around 360 degrees. That you're not gonna have necessarily a super heavy spot. There still might be, some little bit variances here and there, but as I guess archaic of a setup as you can go, not being sophisticated with sensors and everything to actually put force on the tire to balance it like you would a car tire.
It's just too small.
This is as good as you're going to get.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I've been doing RC cars since '86. I've been at racetracks since about '89. I've seen some pretty cool stuff in the pits, And I was trying to, before I knew Dubro even made this, I tried a couple other ones that were like the aluminum one stuff, and that was okay, but it was made for bigger tires. It wouldn't do really light, small little tires like this. And when I found this one, I think you were the first one that found it. And he's like, dude, you got to try this thing. And it really makes a difference, dude. So, $10 for the lead tape that lasts forever, $30 for that. For $40, you just got a huge, huge lead on the rest of the group wherever you're running that isn't doing this. So some guys will look at it and go, it's a toy car, I don't need to do that. You do.
There's people still that do that.
Yeah, so...
I mean, it's significant. You saw how much how fast that tire sunk to the bottom. That weight, that's going to be rotating your car, so that's potential bounce that you're going to have at high speed, and that's going to throw your car off. It's not going to be consistent. Anything could happen.
Yeah, does anybody got any questions about that? Let's do some real quick questions.
Hey, you got any questions about tire balancing or anything that we've gone over so far?
Well, we got a recap in here. Actually, he got a bunch of questions on here.
That's why he's got this live right here, so he can...
Oh, he's got it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool,
Yeah,
sweet.
the inside of the room with alcohol. Yep. Exactly
I should have done that, absolutely. Oh, did you?
Yeah,
okay, I was probably talking to Emma or grabbing some ginger ale, but you want this, there's no point in doing this.
If it's not clean.
If it's not clean and it doesn't stick, it becomes...
Yeah, like the other side. If you zoom in on the other side, you see there's a nice layer of dirt. That's not going to hold very much for very long. I mean.
And granted, this is a used wheel.
Yes.
So, we've unweighted a used wheel that was already balanced just to show you how to do this. If we were back here to the new stuff, yes, you should probably still clean wherever it needs to land.
I would. You don't know what they use on the plastic.
You don't know what's on the plastic.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to say some plastic wheels.
You don't want to balance it and it undo right there after one run or something. It's a little silly.
Okay, I think we're good on that. Where's the other tire from there? Here, set this.
What do you got going on over
No
here,
extra
Dan?
venting in the wheel or tire. I just run whatever the wheel is. I don't vent. I don't use any extra venting.
So, the next segment I want to get into briefly is there's been a lot of talk out there. I've seen, I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but it seems like the problem I had 2.5 years ago with the Traxxas transmission is the same problem that's starting to arise for a lot of guys. And what that is I've seen guys snap the pin in the top shaft, and I've seen the guys take out the idler, but for me and the people around me and the power running through these cars, for some reason I got to the point to where I had to show up with my Traxxas. Now I had my Traxxas transmissions tricked, $250 a piece. They were HR this and HR that, Robinson Racing and ceramic bearings, and I had 3 of these assemblies, 1 in the car and 2 backups, because every time I hit the throttle I broke the diff gears, and that's where the weak point in the Traxxas transmission is. It's a great transmission. It's damn near same as the Proline, which is what we're getting at here. And the only thing is, no matter what people make for, or what case you put on it, or what upper shaft gear and idler gears that you're running, nobody makes an aftermarket gear for the differential of the Traxxas assembly. So you can say, but it's got an HR diff in it. It doesn't matter. That's just the housing. It's still a Traxxas transmission. But I got a hardened case on it, but it's still...
Traxxas transmission.
Exactly. So those diff gears, when you start getting motors that are 55 to 60,000 RPM, man, that's where the weak link is. So for a lot of the guys that have never seen a Proline or know what the difference is, first of all, I don't have a Traxxas differential to show you, which I should have, but I don't own any of them.
Can we cut you off for a second, Dan?
Yeah.
Everybody's asking about the bouncer again.
Oh, yeah.
The Dubro. You can pick it up at your local hobby shop. I got mine from Jake's. Yeah, they're on the shelf, ready to go. And it is a prop balancer, but it works wonders for these tires. I did also balance my prop for my boat on mine.
You know, I'm sorry. I apologize. I kind of got right into that after I had, a couple minutes before said some questions and we didn't find any. So,
Well, what makes that better than all the other ones?
It's
You know
just
what I mean?
the
I think
geometry
everybody
of
else
it.
would probably like to know that.
it's
you
the
know
way
what I
they
mean?
built it. It's what they used to build it. Yeah, it's
with little to no weight on there because some props are pretty small. I balanced my boat prop. It's not even maybe an inch in diameter.
Granted, it comes in pieces. It took me 5 or 8 minutes to assemble it, and once it was, and I was like, oh, what is this thing gonna do that I haven't already tried? And then I put a wheel on it, and I went, holy tamale!
Like it butter.
It is butter. So, it's just absolutely worth its weight in gold. So, let's see if there's any more questions about that before we go on.
Dubro, True Spin prop balancer. Yep, that's the name of it. Thank you, Dennis. Question for Miss Lady Emma. What's your favorite part about racing?
Oh, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that, right? All right, cool. We're gonna get into that in just a minute, but I want to get through the tranny stuff first and kind of end on that note. Anything else on the wheels?
No, that's
That's
it.
it?
That's about it. Yeah, everybody's just repeating that it's Dubro.
Okay.
Dubro.
So back to the Traxxas transmission. Again, I thought at one point in the end of my first season, I had gone through the eliminator round. I had gotten on the list for the first time. I did it very quickly, figuring a lot of stuff out on my own. I didn't have a lot of help, and and it got to the point with these 3 transmissions that were built to the hilt. I was playing Russian roulette with my transmissions, and I finally got down to one day, and it was a list race, and it was a race for me to move up. And by the time I hit 5th or 4th on the list, I wanted it bad. I could taste it like a T-bone, and I was doing a test pass before the day started, and boom. I launched the car, I went out 5 feet, and boom, the diff gears went out. I had a transmission, all I had to do was just switch it. Now, my cars aren't stock Traxxas slashes, so it's not a slash where you take 6 bolts apart, 2 axles, and the tranny comes out. I have, certain washers and spacers in certain places, and I got extra braces that I've made in it. It makes it a 35 bolt, thing to do. So I didn't want to do it, And I ran back and I threw everything aside and I changed the transmission. I went out and I won the race. But at the end of that day, I said, you know what? That's it. I don't care if I have to transplant an Associated with a low-C top shaft and a Techno outdrive. I don't care what I got to do. I'm not going to lose a list race over transmission. So this is the answer right here, okay? For drag racing, when I first started buying them, I'd do like anybody else. I'd get online and I'd see, what was the first thing we saw? We saw the fact that everybody was breaking the cases. Well, if you looked a little bit further into who was breaking the cases and what they were doing, you'd find that a lot of those cases were getting broken on slashes that they're launching over the roof of their mom's garage. So we're not doing that here. Yes, we're sending a lot of power through, but there's no impact to the tranny. Actually, Tim Smith found that out. Hi, Tim. Sorry about the tranny, bro.
That's the first one I've seen that was broken.
And first one I ever seen too. And everything was still in it, in the 2 different pieces, and the bearings were perfect, and the gears were great. I was like, they just broke the case.
Between the idler gear and the diff gear.
So anyway, we're gonna open this up. This is a brand new one. We're gonna throw that junk aside. We're gonna throw this aside. We don't use stuff this light. This is 5,000 weight, I think. Yeah, it comes with, and this is just equal to grease. And that's the one thing we're gonna do is get rid of the grease. So you're gonna open this transmission when you get this thing. You're gonna pop this off. You're gonna take out 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and you don't even need to take the right side of the car case, motor plate, top shaft, gears, slipper, anything, and you want to leave that all together. You just want to lift this one case off. And when you do, inside of there, you're going to find something that is plastic like this, but this is just a case to one. This is the center gear and diff out of a Proline. And this one, just for sake of, I didn't have a plastic one to get together. When I first got these, I immediately started running these aftermarket, I think they're HR2. And it's just a diff housing for the Proline. So I was taking my hop-up tranny and adding a hop-up. Until after I ran the rest of one season with it, my first season, I took it apart to clean it and re-grease it and stuff and see how it was doing. And I decided to weigh one of the stock ones compared to one of the aftermarket aluminum ones. And this thing was like 40 grams heavier than the plastic one. I mean, it was a lot. So I ditched them and I went back to the plastic. Haven't had a problem. And what you're going to do is you're going to slip this out of the tranny. You're going to take this top case out. You're going to slip this out of the tranny. And this is why the Proline tranny is better. For the Traxxas guys that know what their straight cut planetary gears look like, you see how these are 45-degree bevel cut differential gears? Yeah, they're spider gears. And this is mimicked after an 8 scale, like up here, the big Techno monster up there. That's what these diffs are mimicked after. They're a little bit smaller, but they're built in just a stronger design. And I got to tell you, I got 2,500 passes probably between 3 different cars that, and I've never had a problem with one of their diffs. So anyway, you want to take the four screws out of it, and you want to lift it up. Now, when you lift it up, you want to be careful, and it already comes O-ringed. And the reason why we want O-ringing, why, Randy?
So it doesn't leak.
So it doesn't leak. We don't want this really goopy oil that we're going to put in our diff.
The magic juice.
Yeah, the magic juice to get into the gears, because it's going to really slow the transmission down. So please be careful if you take this video to heart and you do this to your car, you do this upgrade so you don't ever got to worry about your tranny again. Make sure you don't get any of this stuff on the outside, or when it's all back together, clean it. Sometimes we'll use a little brake clean on an old toothbrush and just make sure the teeth are all clean and stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up, and you can just push up on this bottom out drive, and it pushes all the gears up. And depending on how clean you want to get it, you don't have to, as long as you dip a rag when it's all together in here and you get most of this, this grease out. What I do is I'll take this and I'll fill it up. And this stuff's really thick, and you got to put it in the corners and really squeeze it in like toothpaste. And you want to get this trough almost full. Don't get it too full, to where it's flat across, because then when you put it back together, it'll squish out the sides. So the reason why the O-ring's there is, like Randy said, to seal it. Once it's all back in and you've cleaned all the grease and you've added. Now what we use is, you notice here, we have a couple different, I got 100,000 here. I got 10,000 here when I didn't know it. I mean, it's a brand new bottle. I've never even used it. This is why these ones are already used so much, and there's so much missing, because we use 125,000, 150,000 right in that range. It allows you to give you that one-legger advantage of being able to have the differential, scope out the terrain on its own, and you won't unload like a grease diff. And you're not going to spin the car around on a true no prep surface because you got a locker in it. So it's right in a happy medium, and it works really good. So once you do that, put the top back on, make sure your O-ring's sealing, put your 4 bolts back in, put the diff back in, screw the thing back together. Don't tighten these bolts super tight. Just kind of bring them into where you can feel them start getting snug, and give them like a quarter turn.
1/8 turn, quarter turn.
Yeah, something really small, just so you know it's back together. Put it back in the car. And let it rip, because you don't need, once you've done this, you got a tranny that is just set up perfect for drag racing. It's strong as an ox. It's not going to let you down, and they just work. So if you can afford $100, that is hands down. All these guys, or even the guys that aren't throwing a whole lot of money into it, they're still wanting the 4.5s and stuff. And even if you're running a stock Traxxas slash car, you still need the Proline in it if you're going to start leaning on the drivetrain with that kind of power. So. As you can see, I got a lot of parts out here. Proline, you can stock up parts. There's rebuild kits and bearing kits, and these are spur gears, and an extra case. You can't be a racer and not hear that people break cases, even if they're bashing and not buying. Here's the same case I bought from I don't know, probably Jake's. Probably ordered it from me, or I got it from A-Main or whatever, and it's been in the bag for 2.5 years. I've never needed one. So as long as you don't hit a curb doing 60 miles an hour. This is a good picture of the stock diff. As you can see, it's the same as this thing. This one's just aluminum, and that's what the inside looks like. And they're just really good trannies.
The diff and the oil changeover does directly change over to Associated for you Associated guys like me.
There you go.
Changes
Explain it a
directly
little bit.
over. There's no difference. The Associated already has a gear diff. Where I feel
Does it come O-ringed?
It has a paper gasket.
Okay,
It comes with a gasket.
okay. It's just a different kind of gasket
Yeah,
system.
it just comes with like a regular paper gasket, like a water pump or
Okay.
like something like a car would use.
Okay.
So it does work. They do all leak after a while, regardless. I think there's nothing that's going to keep it sealed 100%.
We're spinning the crap out of that thing.
Yeah,
you know that?
start wearing.
So this one does leak too.
I've never had one leak in my Proline. I've
They might seep out I think they might seep out the axle if anything, but not leak. I don't think anything's going to leak.
Okay.
But that does transfer over directly to the Associated. Associated already comes with a gear diff.
Look,
Associated didn't mess around with the.
if you want somebody who's got experience with these transmissions, I'm telling you what, boy. There's nothing I haven't tried with these transmissions. They're great transmissions.
And I do run 125,000 weight in my Associated transmission. The only thing I actually had to upgrade from stock was the idler gear. We went over that a little while ago. That I did do a hardened steel idler gear.
The frequency in which you should change that fluid.
I don't know. I haven't changed mine yet. Oh no, that's not true. I did change it once when I had to change the case because they don't offer a metal diff gear, outer gear that I'm aware of for Associated yet. There's a hot racing one, but I had horrible luck with it because the gear mesh. It doesn't seem like it was. Doesn't seem like it was a proper width. It was too wide, so my gears, just the tip of the gear would mesh, so it actually stripped the gear out. Brand new gear set. So that was the first and last time I tried a hot racing the gear diff, aluminum gear diff for Associated. I went back to the plastic one, and it's holding up. I started to damage one when I was really beating on it hard. I think I wrecked it a couple times too. My last body, but other than that, it's holding together. Metal. I got two top metal gears, and then the plastic diff gear with metal gears inside of it, and it's holding up. It's running. It's doing what it does.
Yeah, I know Associated. I only found out that Associated made a gear differential for their buggies and stuff. Probably 6 months ago. I was like, really? They do? I thought they were all ball diffs. It's Associated. And I think I actually own. I think my 4-wheel drive Associated car up there has gear diffs front and rear. So it's probably got the same setup you got in yours, with the gasket and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Is there any other questions about why you should go from a Traxxas transmission to a Proline? If there's any confusion of why we did that, it's because the differentials just don't hold up in the Traxxas stuff. No matter what you do to them, no matter how you case them, what color you spray paint them, whether it's aluminum or it's nylon or it's Delrin, or if it's dual plate. I mean, it's still the gears inside of that differential just don't work for me. So
I got a question. How often do you service the trans? Change your fluid?
The diff, not so much. I try and tear the transmissions apart once a race day. So I will show up with clean, either alcohol or brake cleaned teeth inside the tranny, and it's been re-greased. I use a high temp, high velocity red line, just bearing grease, and I use just a small little half a head of Q-tip on it, and the tranny does its work just to get the gears wet. And I try and do that. So, and we race once a month. So, once a month, this isn't, if I was doing sedans or something like that, or 2-wheel drive, I'd be absolutely, building my diffs, depending on the racing, stuff like Mod Sprint Car, those guys they're rebuilding the diffs every single race. Every single race they're rebuilding the differential. So, but with this differential, you don't have to do that. So, and then I've had them in cars where I didn't take them apart all year. You know what I'm saying?
That's my car.
I'm like, you know what? It's still working great. And then when I did take it apart, it just needed to be cleaned and greased. There was nothing wrong with it. I look at all my stuff with a loop. I look at the condition of the gears, the wear of the gears, if there's any distortions from torque pushing on the teeth. I mean, I inspect your stuff. If you got a little loop or a little magnifying glass or something, it really helps to get down on the light and really see what one of those teeth look like. You'd be probably surprised at a lot of the teeth that you're running for your pinions. They look great, but you get under, you're like, oh whoa, there's
Yeah, I don't ever
on
change my transmission until it breaks. I have a full another one built, ready to go.
You go, Hoss. So that's that. Any other questions on the transmission stuff?
Cost on the Proline, I think it's $84.99 at Jake's plus tax.
Yeah, which is the cheapest I've ever seen it. Yeah,
they
see
dropped
this one.
price.
They dropped price. This one was bought. I don't know when it was bought. Okay, but it's $99. And now they're 86, so I don't know if Proline is trying to offal their transmissions or if they found a cheaper way to make them or what. But I was pleased to see that, even again for the struggling, the newbie, he can walk into his local hobby shop and get one of these for $80. I think that if you're in this kind of hobby and $80 is, I'd pay $180 for that transmission if I had to. If that was the only thing, the only possible reliable exchangeable part for the Traxxas transmission, I would. It's worth it.
I bought one at $100 to put in a car that I was trying to make work.
You put one in an associated car.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
And it's trick. You got dog bones in it.
No, I did before, and I snapped my dog bones because I had to take them back together, and I didn't get my heat treat right, and I screwed that up. So then I went to actually putting on Traxxas outers, RPM outers. And I used the heavy duty.
You ended up doing it.
Yes,
but now that you have it all together, and you have the heavy duty XD axles that I think we covered that in our last segment. If you don't have the axles, get them. They're light. They're the lightest thing on the market. They are so light. They are the lightest thing ever. There's been nothing lighter in the past. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers that. So. Before we bid you adieu for the night, I think we got some questions here for Big M. Big M's 7 years old now, right? And you're coming up in the circuits, and she's getting ready to climb into her first real race car tomorrow morning. And so wish her luck. And one of the things we were going to talk about, Emma, was kids getting into the sport, and you see you have a lot of friends. Like what are some of your friends' names? London. Which is Josh. Hi, Josh. Who else? Jennifer. And what's her sister's name? Jennifer's older sister?
Tasha or something?
Maybe it is. I don't know. I forget her name. But there's other guys that are bringing kids to their races, and you can't... You can only going to be able to bring your kid to these races for so long before they're going to be like, look, Dad, I got to race one of these, okay?
We have two right now that are current racers that show up every race.
Yeah, they do. They show up every race. So, Emma, tell us what is the number one thing about driving your car that you like?
Going fast.
You like to go fast? I just want to go fast, Daddy.
What's your favorite part about it?
What's your favorite part? Is it the part leading up to the race before you walk up there? The butterflies in your stomach?
Everything.
Yeah, you like everything? You like being with everybody? Yeah, it's fun, huh? She reminds me, I don't know what to do with my hands. You come here. So what are some other questions? Anybody got any questions for Emma as far as a kid that, is the daughter of somebody who's obviously heavily into RC cars, have been for years. She's had transmitter in her hand since she could hold one at 1 year old or whatever. Is there any other questions, that maybe people that are, thinking about maybe getting their kids into it, which way to go or anything like that?
Cara, do you guys have a kids class in Lake County? Because it says kids class Lake County.
We thought about doing something like that, and we'd call it like a sportsman. So adult, I was thinking maybe, you can't exclude everybody because you only have, in some places 1 or 2 people show up, So I'd say like a sportsman class. So something that has to run a certain pinion gear with a certain 12-turn Titan and a brush speed control and, a 2S LiPo or a 6L sub C pack or, something like that. And, I think that would be fun.
That would be. Carl, we do run the heavy duty
3-inch.
Traxxas Axles, the
Yeah.
gray ones. They're hardened plastic, I believe, and they're for the Stampedes.
The axles?
Yeah.
They're for Rustler.
A Rustler.
And you can look in here and see them in the light. These axles right here. They look like regular Traxxas telescopics, but
They're silver.
they're a little bit silver, and they're just really beefy. And we wanted to use them because we like the Traxxas shocks. They're really true and they're really light. But every time we pull the trigger, we'd snap the axles. So we went to other brands, and actually when they released these about a year ago for the Rustler, we jumped all over them. So now we have an axle that, both of these axle weighs half of one MIP CVD.
Yeah.
They're so much lighter. So, and I haven't twisted them. I haven't oblonged them. I haven't, they just work. I never have a problem with them again. So between the Proline and these axles, you're set in the drivetrain, And this is Emma's car. Her car's all ready to rock. She's going to be hopefully going out for the list, right? Does that make you a little nervous going out for the list? Yeah? What are you going to do when you go out there? You're going to rotate the earth? Yeah, you're going to rotate the earth? All right.
You got another question, Emma.
Yeah?
From Jake. It says, Emma, what's Dad's favorite nail polish for his toes? Pink?
It is pink! I love pink! High five, dude. I'm going to get a fresh coat after this is over, huh? Yeah?
I did not plan on that.
That was kind of an inside joke. I don't remember what the post was about, but it had something to do with nail polish, and it was between me and Jake, and it was just hilarious. Guy's got a good sense of humor. He's the owner of Jake's Performance Hobbies. But yeah, it would be pink, Jake.
Car, some guys do run metal hub carriers. It all depends on
the Traxxas stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually run just the Traxxas brand anodized aluminum. I don't have them on this car. I have them up on... I don't see another drag car up there.
Maybe just go into more wheels at different times.
Yeah, we'll go into a different time. So, Emma, is there anything else you want to say to everybody about racing? Do you like your pink car? Do you want to go up and get your body real quick? You can show everybody your body. Yeah, let me grab this for you. There you go.
Oh, nice. So, Car, they said they did a stock 12 turn and ESC ages 3 to 12. Same rest of the NPR rules.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you only need, I guess that's only one part of it.
And yeah, you can put it on. Turn it around. Pull all the pins out. There you go, baby.
I haven't seen the Axle Waller out yet. I only run them in one car. I haven't heard of anybody complaining about them either, so...
So if you want to get a side shot, you can see after my first episode, suspension techniques. Come over here to the side. Come on, let go, Emma. Let go. With the battery in it, it'll sit right about there. And as you can see, this thing, it's really not that low off of the ground. It just gives the look that it's that low to the ground. And then when the car's launched, the whole thing pops up like that. So it's sitting there, and boom, it pops up. That's why you want that down travel. You want that droop in the suspension. So I just got no battery in it right now. That's a pretty good looking Ford right there, little girl. Is that your pink Mustang body? Did you do all these?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Does the car have a name?
Pinky.
What's the name?
Oh, it was Pinky Stinky.
That was the name of the car.
Pinky's Big Stinky.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is there any other questions about anything, guys? Like I said, we're not going to go live next Friday. Any more questions for the... if you haven't seen this kid out in some of the local races running around with other kids, you're about to see her in your rearview mirror. So this car's going to be fast. It's got all the key components and a lot of the 100% of everything we've covered in our videos. And it's not all of the videos haven't covered only about 50% of most of our formula, but that's, this car's got that formula in it and it just works. So remember, people, we got to cut the back of the body out. This body's still... Actually, I want to show everybody this. This is the back of my kid's body. You see what that plate says? This says Judd 1.
That's my last name.
It is your last name.
It will in the front.
Yeah, and there's one in the front
Oh,
too.
Daddy, and there's a little one.
Okay, if there's no more questions.
There's one from Tyler Hart. It says if you could get the travel out of the car instead of it popping up, wouldn't that speed it up, getting it going forward instead of up?
What does that mean?
So I'm guessing when.
So the inertia would be going forward instead of going up, but
No, the way I see it, I know this is going to be a really layman's way to put it, is let's say this is a pit bull and he's trying to jump up, okay? Well, is he going to be able to jump up if he can move? Or if you put chains over him, which is what holding the shocks up does, he's not going to be able to jump. It's the same thing. So as much as, like in real race cars, you need to forget about some of that stuff. You got solid motor mounts because, torque twist in polyurethane engine mounts, waste horsepower. So everything's bolted solid into the car with motor plates and stuff. And there's stuff like that on real race cars. There's also something called the natural range of motion, okay? And all I'm doing is I'm allowing these cars to be able to set. I believe that the droop that we're letting them have in order for them to pop up naturally is 90% of what gives our cars the dig that it has. And anybody who's left a line next to me knows that thing leaves hard no matter what color door I've closed to get in, so...
Yeah, I think if it were to the suspension be stiff and like locked out, it would just have a lot of wheel spin and hop versus going.
Yeah, it would be. I'd almost see it like even if you had upward travel, if you didn't have any droop to allow, it's just like anybody who's raced a Techno. I mean, some of these cars you can add, a half inch of droop in the arms, and it just takes jumps differently. It's just the natural range of the motion of the chassis. I want to let the thing move on my cars. If somebody wants to lower their cars, that's cool. But I really think it's the same thing when they limit out and there's no more down travel and the arms are still really up and stuff because the car's been slammed internally in the shocks. Then I think that's the same as having solid bars on the A arms like a drift car, and that's not what you want with this thing, That's why when I first got into this, I noticed the rule about you had to have shocks in the front. And I saw guys on the East Coast and the Midwest, and they had tie rods going down. I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to run that on my car anyway. You know what I'm saying? I get it's lighter. You still got 2 tie rods there. Who cares about the weight? How does it work? It's not. I just don't see it working. So.
Hey Emma, you want to pop your body off real quick? We got a question on how the wheelie bar is mounted to the Proline.
Oh, so what I'm using is I am using this stock black piece right here in the Proline, accompanied with an RPM mount, and then the RPM mount for the slash mounts right to the wheelie bars that are on the market out there. And there's a little flex in them when it's all done. So what I do is I add this little aluminum brace here just to kind of triangulate all this into the chassis. And then Emma, hold on a sec. And then I have to add my tie rods here. And what this does is triangulate the whole, the bulkhead to the tranny, to that mount, to the chassis. And it's just one complete structure. So as far as the spacing, there is some spacers you'll have to put. You'll have to kind of figure some of that math out. But what I'm doing is I'm looking straight down the chassis. And let me pull this down. And I can see that these lines and this line here, the chassis, darn near line up perfectly. And I know that this bar is pretty darn straight. So when you're shimming around and getting all this perfect, you notice one of the shims right here. There's one of the shims I had to put for the last ear of the RPM mount. There's a couple in there, the shiny blue ones. I don't know if you can you see those in the camera?
yeah, there I'm getting it.
So, you got to do whatever you got to do to space all the parts together, but they do fit. The one thing I've noticed that we've had to do is this piece right here. We have to take an 1/8 inch out of this plastic for this blue piece to fit behind. This blue piece goes on the back side of the motor mount. So it gets sandwiched in between the black Proline piece, and I can't just do it because it'll be at an angle. So I actually cut an 1/8 inch out of there, and then I put the piece in between and throw a longer screw, and then I drill out if you notice the end of this isn't drilled, I drill all the way through there so I can put a nut there. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory to anybody who's going to be trying to do this. That I mean, there's a little bit of work involved. I can help people set them up.
Some guys do use the SRTC aluminum mounts for the wheelie bars.
Yeah, which is basically the same thing, and you're still going to have all the same shim problems and alignment problems between the two parts. Technically, the parts are designed to fit together. This is meant to mimic the back of a Traxxas transmission, and this is supposed to fit right to the back of the Traxxas transmission, and everything's supposed to be plumb, and rainbows are outside right now in the pitch black. It just doesn't work like that. We're getting into race car territory, and sometimes race cars, got to get drilled out, honed down, twisted, cut in half. You never know what you got to do on a race car. So, that little notch is not a big deal to get this assembly, onto the car. So. Okay.
We good to go?
I think we're good to go.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Can you say thank you, everybody?
Thank you, everybody.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm thinking maybe 2 weeks from tonight we'll go live again with another show. Next week is Vegas. Everybody that's going to Vegas, good luck, guys. I hope that everybody has a blast and you guys, everybody enjoys meeting each other. And I really feel bad that I'm not going to be able to go, but it is what it is. So. That's it. I hope you enjoyed our show, and thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
As always. And thanks, Johnny. And bye, everybody. Say bye,
Bye.
Emma.
Bye.
Okay.
Supposed to push anything?